News that informs, information that empowers. WMNF Tampa, where music, news, and culture collide.
We're celebrating Black History Month here at WMNF. And on February 15th, Living Mirror Playback welcomes Scott Elliott, host of Thursday's All Souls edition of the Traffic Jam, as our opening speaker. Now when programs such as DEI are under attack, it's more important than ever to keep one eye open toward historical truth and another eye open for threats to racial justice. Living Mirror takes real stories from the audience and plays them back, entirely improvised on the spot. That's February 15th at 1 p.m. in the WMNF studios, and you can go to WMNF.org/events to reserve your seat.
You are tuned to Community Speaks here on your non-commercial radio station, WMNF. I'm your host, Patrick Mobili. Protest against tyranny. People have risen up against the furious agenda being rammed through the body politic by executive order or ruled by decree. However, the protest is targeted at the real shadow government of billionaire Elon Musk, unelected ruler with the made-up Department of Government Efficiency, the age-old cry of the oppressor, next to concerns about national security, of course, canceling contracts while he is also benefiting from space contracts. Meanwhile, POTUS 47 has shown he cares less about the rule of law, and this is going on while federal judges warn him he must respect the rule of law. We'll see what happens, but the culture war has taken precedence over inflation while the price of eggs and everything else continues to rise. The groundswell of opposition to cuts to U.S. aid is growing from the World Economic Forum to the Vatican. And the big game, of course, was yesterday, and there was protest around what is happening in the Middle East, the Gaza Strip, and Sudan in particular. Also, 1.3 million Floridians were removed from their health care plan. Were you one of them? I'd like to hear from you. You are tuned to Community Speaks, and Irene stands ready to take your telephone calls. Of course, you can write us at dj@wmnf.org. This is public affairs program called Community Speaks. Of course, we'll get back to the music next hour after another news update, actually from our locally produced professionals with the scoop. But after that, we'll get back to the music with this, the Music Monday. But right now, you're tuned to Community Speaks. And of course, we look to take your telephone calls. You know, everybody knows what everybody else is doing when we play the big game. And during the halftime show, brief protest by the performer at Kendrick Lamar's halftime show. He unfurled, this protester unfurled a flag emblazoned with the words Sudan and Gaza, two wars in the Middle East that have killed tens of thousands of people. Police say they are working out the charges against the performer. In the Gaza Strip, much of the territory has been obliterated in an Israeli offensive triggered by a Hamas-led attack in 2023 that killed 1,200 people and saw 250 taken hostage. The Israeli offensive has killed more than 47,000 Palestinians. That's according to local officials. In Sudan, a civil war since April 2023 has killed more than 28,000 people, and other estimates suggest a far higher death toll in Sudan. So people are concerned about all of these flashpoints in the world as we are watching leadership in this country basically cave to a billionaire. And we are wondering whether or not people are even caring about their democracy in this country. But we care about it. And of course, we care about all of the aid that has gone on to the world, the rest of the world from the United States, that has helped millions of people. And at the World Economic Forum, at least one person is raising concerns, the executive director of Oxfam International, who's attended the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. This is being the 47th one. But Winnie Byanyima, who was speaking at Davos, Switzerland, about she being the head of the United Nations AIDS agency, and she says the number of new HIV infections could jump more than 6 times by 2029 if U.S. support of the biggest AIDS program is dropped. UN AIDS Executive Director Winnie Byanyima warned that millions of people could die and more resistant strains of the disease could emerge. And since POTUS 47's announcement the U.S. would freeze all foreign assistance for 90 days, the head of the UN AIDS agency says she estimates that by 2029 there could be 8.7 million people newly infected with HIV, a tenfold jump in AIDS-related deaths of 6.3 million and an additional 3.4 million children made orphan. And so this is what, these people's behavior, this is the outgrowth of that behavior when they don't think about what they're doing. And it's clear that POTUS 47 just simply does not know what he is doing or does not care. And of course, we all have seen that he doesn't care about the rule of law. But this is about the world and the help, the work that we put in over decades in this world. And people are concerned about, just this flimsy idea of just firing people and taking away this aid. The Vatican's charity is voicing outrage at what it calls the reckless and unhuman U.S. plans to gut U.S. aid. That's Caritas Internationalis. He's warned today that millions of people will die and hundreds of millions more will be condemned to dehumanizing poverty. And this is Pope Francis's point man on migration and development. He's urged POTUS 47 to remember, quote unquote, Christian principles about caring for others. They clearly care less about that. Cruelty has been the actual policy here in the United States. And, people will be remembered. This country will be remembered. Those who supported these policies will be remembered for this cruelty more than anything else. And especially given the fact that, these oligarchs who are making these decisions are just transferring money back into their own pocket, not yours and mine. And especially when you look at the government contracts that people like Elon Musk have amassed in the short time that we've even known him, and continue to amass. And now he's going to have his hand on the scale as the winners and losers in any future contracts. But of course, we're going to continue to watch all of this. We're going to continue to watch the protest as it spirals, as it continues nationwide, including right here in the Tampa Bay area. And there are so many issues. There's too many issues for any one person to completely respond to. And we're not reactionaries, but we know the overarching problem in this country politically, and that's these culture wars and the fact that these oligarchs lie about the economy and their concerns about the economy only to revert back to culture war issues, which has nothing to do with the economy. And the culture war behavior is causing even more problems for the economy, especially this mass removal of people, even including U.S. citizens, and the use of Guantanamo Bay, something that presidents, especially since Barack Obama, have been trying to close, have promised to close, but the right wing in this country, the far right, continue to fight against that idea, and we see why. They've been wanting to use it as a concentration camp, and we're seeing that happen right now. And also, one of the other issues that I've talked about is the millions of Floridians who have been removed from their health care plan. This is something that a lot of people might have been caught off guard. We know that every year there's an open enrollment, but during open enrollment this year, a lot of people noticed that they were just being thrown off, especially in Medicaid. The Sunshine State, of course, is said to lag behind the national average in terms of coverage and ranked fourth in the United States for the number of uninsured individuals under 65, according to a Census Bureau data. And it's part of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act passed in March of 2020. The continuous enrollment provisions required states to maintain coverage for Medicaid enrollees enduring the pandemic, eliminating the need for regular eligibility redeterminations. But of course, that's apparently over now. And when people, I guess, we got used to not re-enrolling, those people have all been thrown off. Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program enrollment in Florida has fallen from 5 million to 3 million between March of 2023 and October of 2024, according to healthcare research nonprofit, the Kaiser Family Foundation. So that's what's happening in Florida. I want to hear from you. 813-239-9663 is the number to call if you want to join a discussion about protests and what is happening globally and just the outgrowth of what these policies actually mean in the world, not just in this country. 813-239-9663 is the number to call. We see a couple of people have already called. We're going to go straight away to the telephone line just to get things started. We'll start with Lakeland. Our guy, Simon, is calling. Go ahead, Simon. You say what?
Yes, thank you very much for taking my call. I'm going to make a couple points. Hopefully you'll hear me out. I think that no one would object of being a good steward of money in our backyard and or of the government. May I point out, if you'd let me speak, please, WMNF compensation salary.
Thank you, Simon. I'm not going to hear you out. We're going to move on. 813-239-9663. There's no reason to talk about personnel issues here at WMNF. We are the messenger. You don't have to continually try to kill the messenger. And people must be right about you. You're targeting, outlets such as WMNF, just like all of the libertarians and the right wing has done. They've gone around targeting these outlets to spread their own disinformation. Personally, I'm at war with disinformation, and I'm going to continue to war with you, Simon. So don't call back with that mess. Go ahead. Solar, you're on the radio. Thank you for calling. You say what?
Yes, it's Black History Month. And we could talk about the greatness of Black history, but history also speaks about the worst of Black history. There were over 1,800 people died during Hurricane Katrina. 1,800. We was out there for days, standing, begging for help. You had a black man, Ray Nagin. They knew it was a land grab. They let the levees flood the whole city. And it became a land grab. Took people land who was in New Orleans for decades. Took their land who was there for decades. And it was a land grab. So it also shows what the value of African American citizenship means when it comes to African Americans, what our citizenship means. So all is about celebrating the Super Bowl, the first black this, the first black that. We should never forget Hurricane Katrina. And I say all to the people listening to me on the airwaves, go back and research, look at the video, how they saw us being citizens. As far as the entertainment, it's a minstrel show. We can entertain America all the time with our talents and all of that. But it's called bread and circus. Bread and circus, where they use us just to entertain them, and then, not focus on the real issue. The real issue is America is nothing but an illusion and lies and propaganda. And once again, I say, go to Victor Blackwell. Go to his page. He's a good anchor. We have a good program, so, and not only that, he have the courage to speak about black issues. And his name is Victor Blackwell. But we should never forget. We should always tell every generation, show them the video what our citizenship meant during Hurricane Katrina, because it was all a land grab.
Yeah, thank you for calling, Solar. That's interesting. Interesting point. And the situation in Katrina did show, it peeled back the class differences, the racial differences, the fact that that was a major city. There had been computer simulations to talk about what would happen in major flooding. There had been major flooding just a decade prior. And seeing that that city should have been better prepared, the state was run by a Republican, and oftentimes they care less about cities being prepared for major disasters, for anything really, and really the only solutions they have for cities oftentimes are police. Just flood the streets with police. But the city clearly was not ready. The country was not ready. The response in a major American city in 2005 was deplorable. And what happened afterwards, a lot of people did have to leave. A lot of people often, don't own their land, but some people did own their land and were able to return and rebuild. But the rebuilding process, depending on what your class economic situation was, could have been, your rebuilding possibilities were very much slowed down in that city. So, I don't know how you can tell that story in its totality. That's been at least 20 years ago now, and it's important to recognize, what the mistakes were and learn from our mistakes. Does this country learn from the mistakes? I don't know if they always do, especially when it comes to race. I don't know unless we're there sitting at the table. Oftentimes these mistakes, these problems continue to fester and happens over and over again, as we've seen even in death here in the local area, the way development occurred, especially during the 50s. We know what the 50s were like. We were still in dividing, we were still in separate but equal, which was inherently unequal. The Supreme Court ultimately determined. But these development projects papered over a lot of cemeteries with a lot of dead black people, that this country was even disrespecting their humanity in death. And so it's important to recognize that if we don't fight for change and the same economic, those who are at the top of the economy continue to make the same type decisions that denies our humanity, even in natural disasters and even in death. So yeah, that's important we have to tell those historical narratives. We have to keep those stories alive so that we can continue to teach that lesson. Thank you so much for that call, 813-239-9663. I'm your host, Patrick Wabili, for this public affairs program called Community Speaks, taking your telephone calls. We're going to go to a first-time caller, Ken, in Tampa. Thank you for calling. You say what?
Hello, Billy?
Yes, Ken.
It's Tim.
I'm sorry, Tim. Yeah.
Do you see the blatant security threat that Elon Musk is?
I feel it. Yeah, I do see it. And there are a lot of people in the streets protesting right now.
All right. So Elon Musk has a long-standing, deep relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. He has factories over in China. He makes billions of dollars from the Chinese market. Now, the Chinese government can take his plants and kill his market anytime they want. So my question is, why isn't anybody mentioning that? Because it's like, don't you think China is going to go, hey, we want to know everything you know, USAID, for instance, we want you to make sure that gets destroyed because that creates a vacuum that China can fill.
Well, I don't think he needs to take advice from China. I just think he wants to get those that cheap manufacturing base over there and take advantage of that, and all China wants to do is, of course, make money and have its own sovereignty and do what it wants to do. I think if we continue on this process, it take Panama or Greenland, and that would be carte blanche for China to go take Taiwan, and the world would be just as chaotic, more chaotic than it already is right now, because these guys want to make money. So I don't think he needs advice from China. I don't think they told him to go gut USAID. I just think that's something that he wanted to do anyways, because they just don't have a heart to give. And that's one of those things that they see as, they call it, left-wing lunatics running it. So, it's just culture war. They don't need China to tell them they were going to do that anyways.
Well, what I'm also concerned is he's about to go to the Pentagon. And what information is he going to give to China?
Well, like I said, I don't know if he goes to the Pentagon. It's up to the Pentagon and Congress to start stopping him from getting all this information, just like the judge is determining today that he has too much access to classified information, including Treasury information, which includes your Social Security number and banking information. So he needs to be stopped by this Congress. Democrats
need to start pointing out the point that he has a conflict of interest with China.
Yeah, I think they're in the they're in the streets.
That makes him a security threat.
All right, thank you, Tim. Thank you for your call. Tim's very concerned about the relationship with China, and that seems to be something that POTUS 47 shares anyway. So why isn't he stopping him? That's just a contradiction right there. Go ahead, Terry. You're on Community Speaks. Thank you for calling.
Thank you for taking my call. I also been trying to call your guy on Sunday because he mentioned third-party development in the black community also. And so my questions to you are, and I'll take them off the air, are you familiar with the term blitzkrieg? And that's one. And then the second one is, I'd like you, if you'd like to talk about third-party development in the United States. Can you do that?
I could, but it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. You already got a third party now with the MAGA party. I mean, eventually the Republicans are going, they're compliant right now, but I think that they are going to go too far to the right, maybe, for the Republicans, and then they'll end up being their own party, even though I think they'll be a minority party. But
okay, so you think it's okay. I mean, if you think it's a waste of time, then it's a waste of time, because it can't happen without following. How about the term? A lot of people don't know what that term is. Do you know what it is?
Blitzkrieg.
Yeah.
It's a historic term. We know that I associated with the bombing of Berlin, and but will you tell us what it is? What you think it is?
It was used in the Second World War with Hitler in armor. It's basically lightning war. Mm-hmm. It's translated loosely into lightning war, where it's quickly there's a psychological advantagement. Except he used armor, where now I think we've got supercomputers.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious as to
Blitzkrieg just being a surprise attack. So you think computers are what?
Well, what do you think? Supercomputers. What do you think? What do you think is going on right now, man?
Well, I know that, people like Elon are exploiting a lot of this. I mean, we know that Starlink...
They've got the equipment.
Yeah.
They've got the equipment, and they got the know-how where most people don't. I certainly don't.
Right, most people don't. But I think that was the point, one of the points of the International Space Station was supposed to be for international coordination, agreement, and the opportunity to work as humanity, not as just a country, but that's turning into warfare.
Let me mention one thing. Let's see use of them for good. Let's see use of them for positive humanitarian efforts. Let's not see use of them. And you know what? There's no way to monitor what's going on in outer space for the average guy, right? Or the woman, average man or woman. There's no way to monitor that. That's an elite few that can do that. So let's use these things for the common good. What you put the information in the computer is supposed to tell you what you're supposed to do for the common good. It could happen that way. Buckminster Fuller said that way back in 1981 when he wrote Critical Path. So I'm just saying it's a new type of blitzkrieg, but it's not using armor.
Right, a surprise attack.
Planes or bombs, it's just using supercomputers.
Well, I think you're right, but I also think that if more everyday average folks who are online stop using it for ill, stop using it to promote misinformation and distorted information to hurt society. I don't know what they get out of it. Does it get them high? But yeah, I think I probably should expect that from humanity, that there are going to be a lot of bad apples because it's too much of a power incentive and economic incentive to be evil.
Exactly. So thank you for very much. And I also want you to rap with your dude on Sunday. Okay, are you guys in? You're on his show, aren't you, sometimes?
Oh, yeah. I'm only running the board, but,
yeah, but,
you can talk. The phone lines are open. You can talk.
I got to work, so I can't call in. So just put it out there, man. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Thank you for calling. 813-239-9663. 813-239-9663. You could also write me, DJ, at WMNF.org. We're halfway through this program. It's Community Speaks. I'm your host, Patrick Mobili. And we like to talk about what is happening around us and what is actually happening, what people are actually out there doing. And we see Elon Musk has been the focus of a lot of protests. He's been given a lot of dangerous power, unelected, and he's also, there's the GOP lawmakers, they're basically bending a knee to him and what he's up to. They are gasping at what he's doing, but stopping him, no. The POTUS's plans have been called insane, of course, by Democratic lawmakers who have joined the protest out in the streets in various locations around this country. But Republicans, they say they found them shocking and all of that. But, from the proposal to the Gaza Strip and to turning it into a luxury motel and taking Greenland from an ally, potentially using military force, and POTUS has caught the GOP, as they say, by surprise, according to some reports out of Washington. But what their GOP is actually doing about it is bending a knee and basically doing nothing. They seem to first respond by pleading ignorance and then attempting to interpret the behavior. But it's, they claim to be shocked, but don't actually do anything about it. And they're the ones who are supposed to have the power of the purse, the Congress, that is. And but with a slim majority, all it takes is for two Republicans to back out of voting with the Republicans, but the vice president come in and break such a tie. You need more Republicans to stand up and start pushing back on what they claim are insane ideas, and we're not seeing that happen. But what do you say in all of this? What in your protest are you protesting in the meantime? Are you joining protests in the streets? Because it's one of the only ways to speak to your government in the absence of an actual election. And but a lot of what you're seeing unfold right now, some people claiming this is just this president keeping promises, but if he's taking advice from somebody like an Elon, who has built his he's built his space businesses by breaking things. That's how you understand what to do right the next time you let things break. And this is the industry he's come from. Now he's taken that that behavior, that attitude, and brought it to government under the guise of being efficient. But this is a guy who is basically taking advantage of a weakened government right now. And the problem also in terms of our division of power in this country is this right wing is playing the long game, in that it knows that a lot of these federal judges who have been named there, appointed there by President Joe Biden before he left office, that was one of the main things he was engaging in. He was doing was making certain that these judges are in place to help blunt the agenda that was on its way in under POTUS 47, namely the Project 2025, and we're seeing that this gutting and trying it starting with the departments that they have already attempted going with after U.S. aid. Speaking lowly of education, a lot of these institutions were something that was already targeted by the Republican Party, and but what we're seeing is a project that we were warned about, that everybody was warned about. Now they're acting on the right wing. They're gasping and not knowing what to do to stop it. But they're playing the long game, in that if these federal judges stop them, which we're seeing happen in the case of the classified information giving Elon Musk and his Doge, or Department of Government Efficiency, access to Treasury classified information, and they're moving on to get more classified information. This judge has put a block on that. But no matter how much these federal judges block them, they're hoping, I think, to push everything to the Supreme Court, where they feel they will win. This has been their long game, using the issue of abortion to make certain that this has been the long agenda, and that is to take control of the Supreme Court. And now they feel like that will make them above the law, as long as the 3 justices that were named by POTUS 45 will continue to comply with this agenda and play along. So the division of power in this country is something that we all have to be aware of, but the ascendancy of Congress should be sacrosanct. And we could talk more about how the Constitution was written, what they were looking at the time they put Congress in control. We could talk about the glorious revolution of Britain, but that's neither here nor there at this point, since the control of the Supreme Court is what they're banking on the far right now. We're going to go to Riverview and see what John has to add to this conversation. Go ahead, John. You say what?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
I agree with you with everything that you say, and we're in a bad situation now. Trump has all 3 branches of government on his side, you know what I'm saying? And he also has, the Supreme Court, who is always on his side. And I'm afraid that if he takes these things to the Supreme Court, they are going to deem him a king-like person to implement his rules, because money talks right now. This is what this is all about. And this is what everything is about. You know, it's about, look at all the people that he put in his committee. Look at all the oligarchs he's got as far as the billionaires. You know, and those billionaires are going to make a lot of money. Am I right?
Oh, yeah. That's what they're there for. A lot
of money. And unfortunately, I'm going to tell you right now, the United States is a capitalistic society. Am I right?
You're right. But if they continue to privatize everything, it is going to be an oligarchic society. The capitalists have come to take control.
Absolutely. And so what I'm saying to you on this also, you know, the Senate and the House, they're not going to do nothing. They're not going to do anything. Trump got them shaking in their boots, and you just said that is the third party right now. It's the mega party. That's the third party. And I know people talking about the Libertarian Party, that's not going to happen.
I mean, but they've come to bear. There's a lot of the libertarians that have given power to the MAGA movement.
Absolutely. And I'm afraid, I'm telling you right now, I know, and I'm sorry to say this, and I'm going to say it out loud, you know what I'm saying? I think that blacks right now is a little tired because they have been saying this for a long time.
Right.
Of how things are going to be. And to be honest with you, the blacks have been overlooked in a lot of ways. And this election was also about, okay, if this black woman gets in, how much power would that give to black people? How much more power would that give to black people? A lot more, and they didn't want to see that. I'm sorry to say, but it is. And another thing, too, okay, how much power would that have given to black women and women of color? That's another thing, too, also. So when people sit up and talk to you, I have all different kind of constituents. I'm around all over the place. I work in a lot of places. I do a lot of things, and I see this. And I have friends. And some of my best friends, okay, some of my best friends know stuff is wrong, but they still voted for Trump.
They're entertained. It is entertainment. Thank you, John. But yeah, I think it's important to recognize the things that you're pointing out. But black people, yeah, they're tired. But historically, we will always stand up.
Absolutely.
We're always going to be there and respond.
But I still say that they're not getting a fair shake as far as what they are bringing up. And
it's getting worse in the red states, but I think that's what's going to fuel the protest.
Absolutely. And I don't know when it's going to end up in America. I hope that it doesn't end up with nothing that's catastrophic, you know what I mean, in some kind of way.
Right.
I hope not. I hope that this can be turned around. I know the courts are trying to do their thing, but what happens, like he's saying now, Trump has said, and also his vice president has said, they don't have to listen to the courts. And I'm going to leave it right there, okay?
Right. Thank you, John.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
But they keep thinking like that, and they get a rude awakening. They will get a rude awakening sometimes, and actually all the times, events will move the leaders. Go ahead, Josh, in Clearwater. You say what?
Yeah, I think your protest call, I thought of an easy one. It's just with the March deadline coming to raise the debt ceiling, and with all the Trump and Musk and all that trying to slash U.S. aid and all these other things, I think it's really easy to flip the script on the bad guy from the liberal Dems to the rich Republicans. And I think that's easy to protest, especially with the deadline coming in March, that, they want to give a tax break to all these corporations.
They will extend it.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing for the American people. That doesn't matter what background you are, doesn't matter what political party you are. You know our country's in debt, and how do we give money to more money to the rich people when you're talking about cutting all the aid and everything else? So I thought that would be a good anthem for this year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Josh. Especially given the fact that these rich guys continue to get these government contracts.
Yeah. It is on and on. I mean, Elon Musk doesn't need that much money. I don't know if he if he's serious about helping the United States government, I mean, he should be open to being taxed.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a businessman.
They don't want to pay their taxes, and pay their workers. Thank you, Josh. Thank you for your call. We ought to see if we can get some more calls in. Go ahead. Daryl, calling from Brandon. Thank you for calling, Daryl. You say what?
Hey, Mabila. Well, first let me say I'm your relief. I can hear it in your voice. Well, let me say this. Ditto to John. And I'm going to tell everybody what you need to look for. There's a clash that's going to be coming. It's going to be coming because remember who you put into the White House. Hail to the thief. Mm-hmm, he does not respect any law, and the judges, the hearings, they don't believe in it. Him and his vice president, and there's going to be a clash. Mm-hmm. And what do you think is going to happen, Mr. John Q. Public, if you don't adhere to a judge's order? Mm. They want to lock you in the jail. Right. But no, we can't lock the president in the jail.
Yeah, that
do
judge.
You think so?
Yeah.
So, well, I'm going to tell you what to look for. I'm going to tell you what you're going to look for. They're not going to adhere to the judges. Don't play this game about, well, those are just liberal judges. No, they're judges. Mm-hmm. They are judges. I don't care if they've been appointed by Bill Clinton or George W. Right. They're judges. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to look for. We're not Mr. Trump. No, I'm not going to adhere to it. So what do? They're going to send U.S. Marshals. And guess who the U.S. Marshals are adherent to? The Justice Department. And look who they just put over the Justice Department.
Pam Bundy.
But if they defy that and still want to come and get him, they're going to have a clash with Secret Service. Okay? Mm-hmm. But see, it's gonna get wild and stupid. It's gonna get really wild and stupid. I don't care if it goes to Uncle Clarence in the Supreme Court and the rest of them. Now I think Amy Coney Barrett, she gonna want to say I don't want nothing to do with this stupidness and John Roberts. I'm telling you what you need to look for because it's coming. It's coming, Mister. I don't agree with the judge, and I'm not going to adhere to what the judge had to say. Mm-hmm. I'm going to want to kick these people out of the country. I'm going to give permission. No, I ain't going to cut your Social Security. No, he going to give that to Elon Musk to look into mobility. How much money do you have in the bank, and who do you bank with, and what is in your savings account, and what is in your checking account, and do you receive Social Security? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. How many millions have you received Social Security? Oh, I must have missed your part in the broadcast. How many millions of Floridians lost health care, and who did they lose health care to? Tell it to me again, Mobility.
Who did they lose health care to? These red states are just taking it.
No, I mean, how did? I guess maybe it's not it's how you frame the question. What did they lose health care in?
Medicaid, yeah, state and the health insurance marketplace, yeah.
And guess who that's going to affect? It's going to affect people like Tampa General and what's the name of this other who's taking over hospitals here in the Bay Area. I can't speak about other places like Miami and Dade and all these other places. I don't live there. I'm still here in Brandon. You can't go there, and all the doctors and the clinics and stuff, they're going to be out of business. I'm going to say Trump. Yeah, I'm your retribution. We told you.
Right.
We told you.
Right.
He ain't running for you. He's running to keep his behind out of jail.
Right. Yeah.
That's the main reason why. But I'll tell you what to look for.
Oh, yeah. Look
He
at
already
these
told
courts.
him and his vice president, they're not going to adhere to these judges.
Right.
So what's the next recourse? Federal marshals. And who controls the federal marshals? The Justice Department. And who's the Justice Department in adherence to? The White House. You're trying to give one branch of government power over the legislative and the judicial and the forefathers. See, the law is only relevant when you have people who give adherence to the law. And I know you got other callers, Mr. Mobility, so I'm going to let you go now so you can go back to your joy and let all these people call in and say, I thought this was supposed to be a call-in show about different opinions. So I'm going to get off the air so the different opinions they can speak.
Thank you, Daryl, for your call. It's always enjoyable, and you speak from the heart. It's the truth, and I think that is the thing to look for is how these justices will act. A lot of people are pretty aware of what their politics is and how they're playing the system, but the judicial fix is definitely in. So, yeah, this POTUS 47 needed to defend himself, needed to prop himself up in that office because the Supreme Court just decided that he's protected from what I guess they call official acts in the White House, but I don't know if you can conflate unofficial with official act. But this last judge just gave him the moniker of felon, but he couldn't lock him up. He can't lock up a sitting president, but the sitting president is a felon. 813-239-9663 if you want to add more to this conversation, but it is basically difficult to sit here and watch, especially the Republicans just cede their own powers. It's a spectacle to see these lawmakers delegate their own responsibilities of holding the executive branch accountable and scrutinizing how it spends money to a random tech tycoon interloper, as most people are writing right now. This Elon Musk, and he's doing exactly what some Republicans feared he would do, and he's doing it. And you got to know, if you're in Congress, you should be rising up right alongside the people who are in the streets right now who recognize what is happening. And we have some Democrats who are joining the protest out in the street, but I think the protest is going to be a sustained one. It's not going anywhere, especially as we see this rule by decree in this shadow government with access to all of our classified information, and under the guise of efficiency is doing away with vital programs, vital need programs. And so we're seeing when it comes to public health, especially, whether it's around the world with U.S. aid or whether it's your own citizenry here inside this country, we're showing there are a lot of people who are in power who are showing they could care less about people's need for security, for their ability to survive on a day-by-day basis. This is no longer a government that is really responsive to the people. And what happens when that happens? It's time for revolution. And so I think that people are in the streets because they recognize what a colossal mistake that has been made for the second time. But with POTUS 47 2.0, with Elon Musk in his orbit this time, really running things and doing all of the dirty work. And then even when it comes to the humanity throwing out of the country, under the guise that you're getting rid of people who are criminals, but in the middle of all that, you're getting rid of American citizens, U.S. citizens who are being rounded up, and you're asking other governments to accept them. And, of course, that comes with a cost as well. So how efficient is that, especially when you're removing so many people out of an economy at a time when there are worker shortages? None of it makes sense, except you recognize these are people who are just performing this performance art at this point because they need to defend their jobs in their offices and prop themselves up right alongside POTUS 47, using his office to prop himself up and save himself from facing the truth, for facing justice in this world. And in the process, a lot more is going to be done in your name. So you're going to have these South American governments, Central American governments doing your dirty work on humanity and taking in people, and that's going to be a cost, and even some of them U.S. citizens. And you have this right-wing capitalist who is basically enriching himself under the guise of efficiency, and basically picking winners and losers in terms of government contracts and enriching himself in the process. And I do want to hear more about how you feel about the protest that is happening in the meantime in the process. But I'm going to get on out and make room for Blandy Whalen to come back with the music. It's the Music Monday, but of course, first we're going to get a news update from The Scoop, locally produced news by our own WMNF team. And my name is Patrick Mobili. I'm going to thank Irene for taking all the telephone calls and all of you for calling. I want to get more emails from you as well, going into more details. But I believe this is going to be a sustained protest in this country because we have an unelected ruler who just want to break things. That's how he makes his money, by breaking things and seeing what he can get out of the process in the end. Whether even if that means going to China while you make war, financial warfare with China, you go to China to take advantage of the cheap labor and the cheap access to materials and starting a trade war in the process. But so many issues to deal with. We're going to get on out, make room. But this has been Community Speaks. My name is Patrick Mobili. Thank you for joining me here on the radio. This has been WMNF Tampa and Community Speaks. And you can also reach us at WMNF.org.
Division, too much revision, too much separation, all this polarization, everybody taking sides, there's no place left to hide. We know that we need to get it together. Think you know the only truth? What you think you're gonna do? We know that we're going to have to make it better. We're living in a world of constant change. Everything around us seems so strange. Hoping everything will turn out fine, because we've got to make it in this time.
tuned to Mission Driven, listener supported WMNF Tampa.